of January 14th, 2021. I want to welcome the committee members here this afternoon. And I know we have a new committee member. So I thought for the sake of everyone being introduced, it'd be a good idea to introduce ourselves. I'll go ahead and start. I'm Scott Murphy. I'm a member of the Everett City Council and chair of the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. And I'm going to have Julio introduce himself next, and then we'll go around the screen. I'm not sure if everybody's screen is lined up the same as mine, but Julio, if you could introduce yourself briefly.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Julio Cortes. I'm the Senior Communications Officer for the City of Everett, and I will be acting as your staff liaison for the LTAC committee.
Thank you. Let's see, I'll just call on Sheldon.
Hi, Sheldon Johnson. I am the general manager of the Delta Hotel here in Everett.
Thank you, Sheldon. Brenda, you're next.
Hi, I'm Brenda Stone-Cipher, and I'm a member of the Everett City Council and a liaison to the LTAC board.
Yes, thank you. Kimberly?
Kimberly Valvik from Imagine Children's Museum, and I'm the Director of Communications.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And Gail?
I'm Gail Jabot. I am the Senior Program Director of the Everett Family YMCA, but I retired myself in 2020 as the Chief Officer of Inspiration.
Nice, nice. And welcome, Gail, to the committee. I know this is your first meeting. Congratulations to your appointment, and thank you for stepping up to serve the LTAC. I know that Brian Harmon from the Hampton Inn had also RSVP'd. He has not yet logged in, so we'll go ahead and continue on with the meeting, and if Brian logs in, I'll be sure to make sure he gets introduced as well. So hopefully everybody's had a chance to take a look at the agenda Julio sent out. We have a number of items today. The first thing is to do a brief recap on our 2020 grants. For those of you that weren't in the LTAC last year, we had a very robust process last year, and of course that occurred early in the year before the pandemic hit, and so we had big plans and big grants. A total of $587,000 in grants were awarded last year, and then literally within weeks of the LTAC meeting and awards, the pandemic hit, and obviously a lot of those great plans that those organizations had put forth had to be canceled or scaled back. And so Julio's put together a recap of the grants that actually were paid out in 2020. There were just 7 grants that were paid out. So of the 587,533 that we awarded, we paid out 192,752. And that, again, was to 7 different recipients. We had the Olympic Ballet, New Year, and the Nutcracker that went off for $8,000. The YMCA had the Yankee Doodle Dash for $752. There was a program called #Street Art, Creating Moments of Interactive Delight for $4,000. The Everett Quilt Show went off at $5,000. And the Shack Art Center, they ended up, their event, as I recall, was very early in the year. So they actually got through their event, I believe, in February, kind of before things really hit from the pandemic. And so they did get their full $100,000 grant. And then the Village Theater also received their full grant at $40,000. And the 2020 Fed Cup US versus Latvia, which was an event promoted and marketed that occurred down at the Angel of the Winds Arena, went off at its full value at $35,000. So we did get a few events off early in the year at their full grant amount, which is great. And then a few others went off at reduced amounts, and then a number of those events on the list had to be canceled. So kind of unfortunate, but wanted to go through that and just kind of recap what actually did happen. And all those grants are now closed out, have been fully paid out, and there's really nothing left outstanding. So are there any questions or comments on the 2020 grants? So hearing none, we'll move on then. The The next item on our agenda is I wanted to review our long-term expenditure funds. These are funds that are renewed and committed to on an annual basis, and there's two that we've committed to. One is the PFD, Public Facilities District debt support, and that is $100,000 per year, and that has been budgeted for 2021. And the second is the city's economic development and marketing program, which is $150,000 budget for 2021. So I do believe at this meeting it would be appropriate to discuss recommending the payout on the PFD debt support. And then also I want to talk a little bit about, and Julio can probably speak to some of this, I believe the second long-term program is a reimbursable grant. So in other words, it's not an automatic for $150,000. So that one would be reimbursable. And in fact, you can kind of see that on the recap. We had budgeted for 2020 $150,000 also for that program, and it ended up coming in at $55,401. So we would not be necessarily approving the payout. That's going to be done on a reimbursable basis for the city's economic development and marketing program. But I do want to see if anybody's got any questions on either of these two, and then wanted to entertain a motion on the PFD payout so that we can keep that moving along.
Scott, I'm not familiar with either one of these, so if I could hear a little bit more about either one of them.
Okay, sure. So the Public Facilities District is the organization that oversees and runs the Angel of the Winds Arena. And as you may know, that facility was built in, I believe it was 2003, and there is a substantial debt on that property that's paying off over time. The debt has been paid down dramatically over the last 18 or so years. And much of that has been paid down through operations. The operations over the years, of course, have been up and down depending on what was happening. Obviously, this past year has been a struggle for them, but the 2 or 3 years prior to that had been very, very successful, and a lot of that debt had been paid down. One of the things that a lot of people are not aware of, Sheldon and others, is that the debt on the PFD facility there, the Angel of the Winds, is actually debt that is guaranteed by the city of Everett. So at the end of the day, while that's a separate agency with a separate board, and I should, out of full transparency, I should let everyone know that I do sit on the board of the Public Facilities District. And I can talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but despite the fact that's a separate agency, that debt is essentially something that the city of Everett is on the hook for. And Brenda, of course, has been around much longer than I have on the council, and may have something to add on that, but that's kind of an overview. So Brenda, anything to add on the PFD?
No, I think it's also, important to remember that the city ultimately will take over the building as well. So there's a reason that it's all linked up with the city, and literally would not have been built if the city weren't willing to guarantee the debt. I mean, that's, the organization itself had no ability to sell tax exempt debt. There was nothing to guarantee it. So the city was required to do that, and it was a city project. So we're committed.
Yeah. And part of that commitment has been an ongoing commitment over the years to helping them with their debt support. And so that's really what that $100,000 is about. Just a brief aside on the board appointment I mentioned. I have been on the city council for about 8 years, and during the first about 5 years of my tenure, over that period, I became aware of issues down at the venue. They had gone through some tough financial years. Brenda can attest. We used to get these financial reports from time to time, and quite often the financial losses would be somewhat of a surprise to the council, And so what I agreed to do 3 years ago was to go on that board and committed to providing a much more frequent and transparent report back to my council colleagues. My other commitment was to working with the board down there to get that venue turned around, and proud to say that over the last 3 years, we've really done a great job of getting that venue turned around. We went from red ink for 2 or 3 years prior to my joining the board to very positive results in 2018 and 19, really turned it around. And then 2020, we were off to a great start the first couple months of the year. And then unfortunately, the pandemic hit and all of the hockey got canceled and most of the other events for the rest of the year. So 2020 was not a good year, but it was really more pandemic driven as opposed to any sort of operational problems. But I do want to be transparent and let everybody know that I am on that board, and that was done really with the blessing of the council, that we needed more insight into what was happening down there, and so I've tried to deliver on that. Any other questions on the Public Facilities District?
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Good, and it really does drive a lot of obviously tourism and economic activity. There's big events that come in from time to time. There's the recurring and ongoing events with the hockey and other shows and events that come in, and people stay in hotels that are going to those events. And so I really do think it's a great correlation and a great way for us to spend at least a portion of our PFD LTAC funds. So with that said, Julio, can you just give maybe a brief overview on some of the plans? Actually, before we do go on, I would like to entertain a motion, and I probably should not vote just because I may have a conflict of interest being a board member at the PFD, but I would, I guess I'd like to entertain a motion from the committee to formally approve the recommendation to the council to pay out the PFD debt support of $100,000 for 2021.
Yeah, I'll set a motion to pay that off, the 100,000.
Do we have a second from anyone?
I'll second that.
Thank you. I am not going to vote, but thank you for the motion and second. And any discussion or further questions? Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead, and all those in favor. And Brenda, I don't think you actually are a voting member, but your input is always appreciated. So if you have any questions or comments.
No, we need to do this. It's good. It puts heads in beds.
Yeah. Good. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. I think that was all three: Sheldon, Gail, and Kimberly, and I'm abstaining from that vote. So Julio, you've got the results for the minutes. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the city's economic development and marketing program. If you could just give us a few minutes overview on what you're planning there, Julio.
Sure. Well, Sheldon, you said you didn't have a whole lot of information about this. So the city's economic development program is really Visit Everett, which is our tourism program. It comes with visiteverett.gov and our social media on Facebook and Instagram. In 2018, we did a full revamp of the brand and produced the website, which allowed us to kind of reach a little bit of a broader audience. And in 2019, we were able to kind of launch the brand after work in 2018. It really went out there quite well. We were hoping for the same numbers that we got in 2019 and 2020, but as we all know, 2020 was very difficult for the travel and hospitality industry. So in 2019, after the brand revamp, we got our page views on visiteverett.com went up 550%. On our social media followers went up about 68%. And again, we were hoping for those numbers to continue to go up. What Visit Everett does is we pretty much use the money that LTAC allocates to Visit Everett to promote and market the city of Everett assets. So everything from Jetty Island, Funko, city downtown area, the hotels, restaurants, breweries. We try to make some noise, and the money is usually spent on fly markets once the Painfield Airport opened, or this next year we're going to be focusing quite a bit on drive markets. We work closely with the county, Cascade Loop Highway organization, to make sure that we're hitting the drive markets in 2021. The message is going to be a little bit different than it has been in the past. In the past, we really, encouraged travel. In 2020, the reason why we weren't able to spend $150,000 and only spend about, I think it was closer to 65,000 or 55,000 was we pulled back quite a bit of marketing for 2020. Travel just wasn't an option for a lot of folks. It wasn't something that we wanted to really promote because of the pandemic. But moving forward, what we're going to be hoping to do, especially in the first quarter of 2021, is going to be to build visitor confidence. Make sure that people know that the city of Everett is taking the pandemic seriously, that our restaurants are taking care, that our hotels are, following all precautions necessary, and start trying to make sure that we stay top of mind with people who are going to be traveling, hopefully in the second half of the year, again, depending on how the pandemic develops. We're planning to focus on digital ad buys for the most part, but we will be doing some traditional marketing and focusing some of the money as well in visitor experience, which is going to be, I don't know if all of you have seen the art on California Ave, Everett. On the bottom right, it says Visit Everett. So just cool little Instagram worthy art that we could put around the city to kind of encourage people to take photos and tag the city and kind of grow the city's brand through their network. So like I said, 2021 will have to be a little bit more flexible than we have been in the past, but our goal is to bring people to first inform people about the city of Everett and the beautiful sceneries that we have here, our proximity to a quick little day trip to Seattle without having to really experience the craziness of Seattle, our proximity to amazing camping and hiking, the fact that we have a 2-mile stretch of warm sandy beach in the Pacific Northwest, and really get the word out on Everett. So when travel again is encouraged, people know that the city of Everett is a very beautiful option for them to visit and come and stay in our hotels, eat at our restaurants, and spend some money in our breweries. So that's pretty much what the economic development program is. It's Visit Everett, and which comes along with the website and the social media channels that we operate.
Thanks, Julio. I got a question though. Do you have like a strategic plan that I could see? Just interested as a hotelier, not as a committee member.
I do. I'll be happy to send you. We have a 2-year marketing plan that I can send you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, Julio, maybe just send it out to the entire committee. That's a great question, Sheldon, and appreciate that.
Will do.
Any other questions for Julio? Julio, so we took action, the committee took action on the PFD. Do we need to take action on this particular long-term expenditure, or because it's a reimbursable, would we be taking action later when those dollars are reimbursed?
LTAC usually takes action now, and then when they get reimbursed, it's just kind of the reimbursable. But I think LTAC does take action usually at the beginning of the year during these meetings.
So it'd be basically the action is to authorize these expenditures on a reimbursable basis for 2021, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Brenda, do you have any thoughts or comments, questions? Does that seem reasonable?
No.
Okay.
Seems reasonable.
Good. Gail, Sheldon, Kimberly, any other questions or comments?
No, I'm good.
No.
Okay, good. I will, just for the sake of clarity, I will let you know that we did have several robust discussions at the City Council a few months ago when we were reviewing and approving all of our city budgets, and included this topic in some detail. So I can tell you that the City Council has discussed this at length and approved this budget as well. So just thought you might like to know that. So with that, said, if there's no other questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the $150,000 reimbursable long-term city economic development and marketing program.
I motion to approve the 150.
Thank you, Sheldon. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Gail. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, chair votes aye, so I believe that. Any opposed? I don't think so, so motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, wanted to talk a little bit now about our grant process for 2021. And again, this topic came up in some detail during the city's budgeting process a couple months ago. And initially, I think you're all aware that the city's finances have been under serious strain over this past year, and a number of cuts had to be made in staffing and other programs. And in an early version of the budget, there really was no funding for grants. And throughout the process, the council worked really hard to find some dollars. Really want to give a shout out to Councilmember Stonecipher and Councilmember Toohey, who was involved with me as budget chair. And we were able to find the $200,000 that we put back into our budget. So I'm really pleased about that. I think it's important that you understand that we worked really hard to be able to have some funding for 2021 for grants. And the discussion that we had in December when we approved this was the idea that we would take this bucket of money and split it up into two batches, the first being a $50,000 batch that would be available through a round of potential grants in the first few months of the year. And that would be $50,000 in the first few months of the year through May 31st. And the second round would then be the remaining $150,000 that would be reimbursable for events that would occur later in the year after May 31st. And the idea is that, clearly the pandemic and the effects on, our hospitality industry and restaurants and events is still significant and dramatic. And we're all hoping that by mid-year, there may be the ability to do some more events and maybe get back to a little bit more of a normal, ordinary course of business type scenario. But we wanted to make some dollars available early in the year for organizations that might have great ideas that would be able to promote tourism, people visiting Everett, and those sorts of activities. And so that was kind of the thought process. And Julio's put together an application. This is really a carry forward, but it's been updated a little bit, the application packet that we'll plan to get out to the public. And I think that's going to occur tomorrow. The idea with your concurrence, but the idea is that we get this out, do a press release, have it on the website, have it available tomorrow, and then ask for them to be submitted 3 weeks later by February 5th. And then we'll go through a process, and the committee will meet again in February to review the grant applications that we have for this first round. So that was the thought process. And with that, I want to see if Julio has anything to add at this time.
Just real quick about the proposed schedule for this first round. So, like Scott said, we do have a media release ready, and the LTAC webpage is ready with additional information and the updated application to go out tomorrow by 5 p.m. If LTAC approves, it would be open until February 5th at 5 p.m. And then what my question is basically how fast we want to get back together to review. Scott and I had originally talked about meeting on February 15th in the afternoon, February 16th in the morning, or on February 25th. That was another date that was pushed out. So really, I just wanted to kind of get the committee's feedback on which date you thought would be the best one. Obviously, I've spoken to a few event coordinators who have had events in the past in the city. There's not a whole lot of event coordinators who are going to be doing something before May or March 31st, but some do have some ideas that they'd like to kind of entertain. I don't anticipate a whole lot of applications to come through. So I could commit to making sure that I put together the applications for your review by February 15th or 16th if we'd like to meet a little bit sooner rather than later.
Okay, good. Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate that. Any other questions or comments or thoughts about the schedule?
Maybe we look at meeting early and then a second time in case there's more that comes in, because you don't want to miss anything. You know, maybe plan 2 times in February to meet.
Well, the application.
Let me just jump in there. I think the way the application is written, Sheldon, is that the deadline is February 5th. So any application that comes in after 5 p.m. on the 5th will not be accepted or reviewed. So we're giving people 3 weeks. And I did give a heads up in my public comments a couple weeks ago at a council meeting to try to give some people who might have been paying attention what was going on. So I'm hoping that we'll get a few applications. As Julio points out, I don't expect we're going to get, dozens or anything like that, but we'll see. But really that 5 p.m. on the 5th is the deadline. And so if Julio can pull all that together that following week, and then we plan to meet, I agree that meeting sooner than later is better, because if we can get through it and get some of these approved and give people the green light, it might help them to get some activity going maybe as soon as February, March, April timeframe. So anyway, that was the thought.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity too, right? It's something important to note is that any applicants that do apply for the first round will be eligible if you approve for the second round as well.
Julio, I'm just thinking about how hard it is for people to connect and get information now. Do you have a way of sending out, sort of proactive sending out the announcement to people who've received or applied for funding in the past, say the past 2 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe Deb does have a list of everybody who's applied in the last week. So I was hoping to connect with her to make sure that, outside of the media release, social media announcements, that we do also kind of send the application through email to all the prior applicants.
I think that would be advised, just because I think, first of all, I know some of the nonprofits who have received funding before are maybe not as tech savvy. I'm not sure what the quilters are doing, but they, some of them have been a little small and not, more volunteer driven and just don't have professional staff that maybe tapped into that. And also I have a feeling that a lot of organizations may not be expecting us to be doing granting. And so they may not even be thinking about, looking for it because of COVID. So it'd be nice if we could get that list and, just proactively send out the announcement so everyone knows what we're doing. Because 3 weeks is a short time frame for a nonprofit to turn around a grant application. So I'd want to make sure that we're giving them the best chance of meeting the deadline.
For sure. Yeah, that's great. I'll do that.
Thank you.
Good suggestion. Thank you, Brenda.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Any other questions or comments? And in particular, I just, I kind of laid out the plan, and this was the plan that those of us on the council that were engaged in this came up with, but we're certainly open to other ideas. The idea was, though, we want to give people the opportunity to do something in the first half of this year and be a little bit flexible on how that might look. So any other thoughts or concerns, or are people okay with moving forward kind of how we've discussed?
Yeah, I think it's a great plan. And I think I'll put on our Facebook, I'll put a link to this on our Facebook page too, so that if somebody comes to the hotel, they'll see it.
That's great. Good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And And something I can do too is tomorrow, once the media release is finalized and the web page is finalized, I'll make sure that you all have access to the web page in case you want to share with your networks.
Great.
Yeah, we might be able to get the other hotels on their Facebooks to put a link too, so it's really covering the city.
Awesome.
Terrific. Good. Okay, well, if everyone's agreeable, I don't think we actually need to take formal action. But I don't know, Julio, Brenda, what do you think? Do we need to take any action on this in particular, just to ratify the plan for the first round at 50,000?
I don't think it's, yeah, well, you can do it. I don't think it's necessary because the funding is there, so the committee has kind of, but if you want to do it, I think that would be fine as well.
Cross our T's and dot our I's. So yeah, why don't we just do that? We'll entertain a motion to approve the first round of LTAC funding up to $50,000 on the schedule that we've discussed here. And so is there a motion to move forward on that basis?
I motion to move forward on the first round of funding for $50,000.
Okay, thank you, Sheldon. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Kimberly. Motion and second. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Then in terms of the scheduling, does everyone have the ability to look at, for example, the afternoon of the 15th of February? I was looking at possibly the same sort of time frame, maybe 4 p.m. on the 15th, which is a Monday.
I'm not available. I have a meeting at that time on Mondays.
Okay. Would it help if we moved it?
That's President's Day, by the way.
Oh.
And Valentine's weekend.
Oh, okay. Well, let's look at the 16th then. How about Tuesday the 16th? Is there availability that afternoon?
Yes.
Okay.
I can do that.
Sheldon?
Good for me. It works for me.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, that works for me too. So let's, I'm just going to put a placeholder on my calendar right now. And Julio, maybe you can send out a formal meeting invite so everyone has it and Brian is aware as well.
Yep. And we said Tuesday the 16th.
Tuesday the 16th at 4 p.m.
Okay.
Good. Thank you. And then you know we'll obviously be discussing our second round of funding, and that'll have the 150,000, and potentially, you know, if we don't end up granting out the entire 50,000 in the first round, depending on what comes in, we potentially could have more than 150,000 available for the second round. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. Okay. Let's see. Looking at my agenda here, I am not seeing anything else on the agenda for today. Julio, have I missed anything?
Nope. I believe we are good.
Okay. Brenda, any other thoughts or topics?
No, nothing for me.
Okay. Sheldon, Gail, Kimberly, anything else?
I don't know. I'm good.
I'm good too.
Well,
you guys are efficient.
Pardon?
That was
You
fun.
guys are all efficient.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Scott,
Well,
good meeting.
I do want to say thank you to everyone on this committee, and in particular, Gail, again, welcome to the committee. Thank you for stepping up. Sheldon and Kimberly, thanks for continuing and not running for the hills. Brenda, always appreciate your insights and involvement. And Julio, great job on your first meeting providing the staff support. So thank you. We look forward to working with you on this. And Pipa, I know you're in the background there somewhere as well. Thank you for your help with the technology and the recording and all that. So have a great day, everybody. I'll speak to you soon.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Great.
Bye.
Thanks all.